Welcome to this evening's presentation on Community Choice Aggregation. This is a program that's been being created in partnership between the City of Rochester, their selected Community Choice Aggregation Administrator, Jewel Assets, or Jewel Community Power, and the local program manager, Rocktricity. My name is Sue Hughes-Smith, and I am one of the partners at Rocktricity, a local company with offices on South Avenue. If you call our office with any questions, which we hope you will, or email us, either myself or Melissa Carlson, Margie Pete, or Ben Freevert will be available to answer your questions. So let's get into it. This evening, I will review what community choice aggregation is, the benefits of CCA, which organizations or levels of government can implement CCA, how it works, and then the steps that were taken to implement the program. I'll touch on community distributed generation or community solar and how it connects with CCA and the benefits of community solar. So before we get into the specifics of CCA, wanted to just take a step back and have everyone think about electricity in general. So electricity, of course, is being created at power plants of one type or another. And if you use the EPA Power Profiler website, you're able to put in our zip code and it will generate the data showing which facilities essentially are putting electrons onto the grid. And the way that that breaks down is that the fossil fuel plants are contributing about 1/3 of the electrons. Nuclear power plants are contributing 31% or close to another 1/3. Hydropower facilities are 32%, leaving just a little bit from renewables. And most of this is actually from wind generation. So 7% from actual renewables. And of course, in New York State, we now have a law that is requiring us to get to 70% renewable electricity by 2030. So that's very ambitious. And community choice aggregation can be one tool to help us achieve that goal. Okay, so most of us are a little more familiar with our actual electric bill. And the reason this is important is because our electric bill has two parts to it. The top oval there says delivery services, and the bottom oval is supply services. So when I was talking about the generators of the electricity, the power plants, those are the facilities that are supplying us with electrons. Okay, and it's a little confusing because on your bill, if you just have an RG&E bill, it says supplier Rochester Gas and Electric, but RG&E really doesn't own anything in the way of generation today. And that's because way back in the 90s, New York State went through something called deregulation. And so really RG&E is purchasing electricity on our behalf if we haven't made some other arrangement for ourselves. Okay, so supply services is actually referring to the electrons themselves. And that's what community choice aggregation will influence. The top portion where it says delivery services, that's the cost associated with RG&E doing its work, taking care of the power lines and the poles and reading the meters and sending us our bills. All of that RG&E will continue to do even when there's a community choice aggregation program in operation in the city of Rochester. So RG&E's role will not change. And so the delivery services and the fees associated with that will not change as a result of community choice aggregation. Okay, so what's happening today without CCA is we have the generators, the power plants creating electrons, they go onto the grid, the utilities are taking care of the lines and the wires and ensuring that it gets to our houses and our businesses. A great job. And then we get a bill from RG&E, and that bill again had two parts to it, hence the two lines. One part of that bill, the delivery services, stays with RG&E. The rest of that money for supply services, RG&E sends on or passes through to the various energy suppliers and brokers, sometimes called ESCOs. So there it is all together. The electrons flowing one way and the money flowing back. So what is community choice aggregation? Well, this is an energy purchase program that has been authorized by the state of New York, specifically by the Public Service Commission, which regulates utilities. And this rule was passed in 2016 after they had examined what happened at a pilot program in Westchester County. So we have some rules, and these rules allow municipalities to aggregate the energy demand of their residents and small businesses and therefore negotiate a bulk purchase. All energy customers are eligible to participate in these types of programs, but some are automatically included, and that's called opt-out treatment. So if you're a resident or a small business, you would most likely be included automatically, and that makes it easy for all of us to access. If there are some very large users of energy, like the university, for example, they would have to choose to join the program and therefore opt in. It's unlikely that very large users would find this program beneficial because the Public Service Commission was trying to find a way for residents and small businesses to have the advantages in the marketplace that these large consumers of energy already have. So here we are currently without CCA, the traditional generation of electrons, which of course, remember in this part of the grid is almost, all fossil fuel or nuclear. And the electrons are flowing and we're paying our bills. That's what it looks like without CCA. What happens when we add CCA in? We're hoping that over time, the traditional generation shrinks and more renewable generation comes onto the grid. Everything else basically remains the same. The electrons are still flowing, the utility is still taking care of the wires and the poles and sending us our bills, and we are still paying one bill to RG&E. And RG&E takes care of paying the generators or the brokers, just like they always have. So the benefits of community choice aggregation, there are several. One is the goal is to reduce the electric rates for residents and small businesses. Another is to reduce the price volatility by using a fixed rate over a longer period of time. The goal is to accelerate the transition to renewable energy and to encourage local renewable energy development and jobs. So if you look at the graph on the left here, there's a dashed line that goes up and down and up and down, and that's called the market rate. So the electric market is actually quite fluid and it changes rapidly from day to day, from month to month. And the rules that govern RG&E's behavior, if RG&E is purchasing electricity for us, requires RG&E to send the variable rate, pass that on to the consumers. Sorry about that. And so RG&E's rates for supply will go up and down each month. The CCA rate, we hope, will be a fixed rate, and some months might be higher, some months it might be lower than RG&E's rate. And we hope to secure a price that will be a very good value for the product that's being offered and for the community. So who can authorize community choice aggregation? Well, the lowest level of government wherever you are living. So in the case of the City of Rochester, it's the city that has moved forward to pass a local enabling law to make this program possible. In other communities, it might be a village or a town. And when some municipalities that are quite small pass this rule, they can work together in forming a larger aggregation. The City of Rochester has the advantage of already being big. So whenever the city gets a good offer to implement the program, they'll be able to move forward. So the way the Public Service Commission set the rules, CCA programs can aggregate electric supply, gas supply, or both. Over time, we could incorporate energy efficiency programs or other sources of energy like solar energy, things that are smaller and more distributed. Customers, however, are always enrolled on an opt-out basis. That's a rule set by the Public Service Commission, but they also require opting out to be easy. This may also include customers who are already contracted with their own energy supplier. If you've taken that action, then you would have to opt into the CCA program. And we hope that the City of Rochester, like other communities in our area, will select 100% renewable electricity as the default choice for the program, meaning that it would be the automatic choice. So this table is just going to help us review how CCA is just creating another option for electric customers. If we look at the top line here that says, choose utility supplied electricity. Remember, that means that you're choosing to have RG&E make purchases on your behalf because RG&E doesn't own generation. Can you do that today without CCA? Yeah, that's the default. That's how the program is established by the state of New York. If you've done nothing to choose an ESCO, RG&E is purchasing that electricity on your behalf. But when you have a CCA program in operation, you could still have RG&E make the purchasing for you. You would just have to opt out of the CCA program. Could you use the marketplace and look for the products that you want yourself and choose your own ESCO? You can do that today. That's been possible since the 1990s. Under CCA, that is still an option. You would just, again, have to opt out of the CCA program, or if you're already with an ESCO, you wouldn't be included automatically. Finally, can you enjoy the benefits of buying in bulk? Well, right now through RG&E, you cannot, and that's simply related to the rules that govern how RG&E is allowed to purchase and pass those costs on to consumers. So right now, there are no bulk buying benefits. Under a CCA program, there are advantages through a bulk purchase. So again, in this part of the grid, about 1/3 of the energy is being generated by fossil fuel facilities, nuclear and hydro, and just a little bit is coming from renewable energy. But over time, we're hoping that programs like CCA will drive fossil fuel generation out and grow the amount of renewables in the mix. CCA, therefore, can help communities enjoy renewable sourcing, lower rates, and more options. If you have questions about any of these details, you can call us at 585-244-0244. You would press option 2 if you want to speak to someone who speaks Spanish better than I do. And then you can also email us at info@rochestercommunitypower.com. Okay, I'm going to leave that screen up for a little while and take any questions that you may have.
We have 2 questions you may have touched on a bit. How is community solar like Astral or other suppliers we're familiar with around Rochester different from CCA? And if I sign up for one, if I sign up for a community solar, will it cancel out the CCA?
Right, so this is an excellent question. And I'll just be clear that I don't know the details of every solar developer's particular plans. Okay, so I'll just speak to community solar in general. So community solar is a program that works together with CCA. It's great if you can participate in both, because that will maximize your savings and maximize your encouragement of renewable energy. So that's fantastic. You can do both. If you have solar panels on your house, you can also participate in CCA. Okay, that is possible. And that's all great news.
How often can a person opt in or out? And
well,
why might they want to?
Right. Good question. So technically, there's no cost to opt in and there's no cost to opt out. You could opt in over and over and over again. It would probably not be to your advantage for a couple reasons. One is when you are looking at RG&E's rate, you're looking at what the rate was the last month. Like if you got your bill today for RG&E, it's telling you what you paid last month, not what you're paying going to pay this current month. There's also a lag between when you ask to leave the program and when RG&E processes that request. So sometimes you may have asked and then 2 months later, you're finally opted out. And now if you want to get back in, it's going to be another 2 months before you get back in. So you can opt in and out as often as you want with no charge, but you may not want to. You may want to make a decision, maybe change your mind once or twice, but more than that probably would be a little crazy. But that's up to you, for sure.
Some customers are currently with a different energy supply company. How will they know when to opt in? Is there a process for that?
Yeah, this is tricky because the way the rules are structured, if you are with an ESCO, you won't automatically be included, and we won't be able to access, we meaning Jewel, our partner, won't be able to access your utility data to send you a letter telling you about the program. So the best thing for people who are on ESCOs is to follow Rochester Community Power, either the website or the Facebook page or the Instagram page, so that you get updates and you know when a program gets created and when it will start. So this is just the first step in the process. And after we do tomorrow night's presentation, we have to submit some documentation to the Public Service Commission. They'll then approve that we completed the outreach, and then we can move into the next stage where we begin to actually have Jewel assets will go to the market, the electric market, and see if they can get a good product after they've consulted with the city staff to know what the city wants to pursue. Okay, then we get those bids, then we'll be doing, Rocktricity would do more presentations to tell you what the price details would be. And then 60 some days later, the program would start. So not to be concerned that anything's happening next week. It still will take some time to finish developing the program details. So if you want to keep track, do keep track of the Facebook page or the Instagram, or check back on the Rochester Community Power website, and we will post updates there. That's probably a long answer to a simple question.
I think once our program gets going in the first month, that a person would be able to go to the Rochester Community Power website and opt in, and RG&E will transfer you from one ESCO to the other, because the bidder who gets the supply for the City of Rochester will be an ESCO effectively on your bill.
Thank you, Melissa. That's right.
That's the way we're working in some other communities.
Correct. Great. Thanks for that. I forgot that part of the question.
Do you anticipate the share from Gday to be the same under RCP as currently?
Okay, so if the Rochester Community Power Program develops the same way that some of the other, like the Monroe Community Power Program is developing, then we would go to bid for renewable electric supply, which means we're going to bid to purchase renewable electricity. And renewable electricity is defined as hydropower, wind power, and solar power. So in that case, nuclear would not be being included in the purchase of the electricity, which is not to try to imply that the electrons flowing in the wires have changed immediately once you're making a different purchase, right? Over time, we anticipate that the amount of nuclear generation is likely to decrease, not necessarily because of community choice aggregation programs, but because most of the nuclear plants in New York State are aging out and are getting towards the end of their cycle. So if we're forward thinking, we need to be planning for 5 to 10 years down the road. What is going to happen when our nuclear facilities close? Are we going to have built enough renewable generation to replace them? Or are we going to be faced with making a snap decision and risk having fossil fuel facilities entering into the mix? So personally, we're hoping to avoid that and see more renewable generation.
The next question is, we get to talk about ourselves. Who is Rocktricity? What does it role? Are we a nonprofit, and how do we get paid?
Great questions. So Rocktricity, the four of us who own, I guess, Rocktricity, because we are a small business. First, we were working as volunteers for the Rochester People's Climate Coalition, now the Climate Solutions Accelerator. And we were promoting community choice aggregation as a strategy for municipalities to address greenhouse gas emissions. 2 years ago, the administrator, Jewel Assets, was looking for a local partner and asked the four of us if we would be their partner. And so we formed a small business to help facilitate the implementation of renewable electricity programs. And we will get paid just as Jewel Assets will get paid through a small per kilowatt hour amount that will be a part of the price of the electricity. So Jewel in the past has made that fee 8/100ths of a cent per kilowatt hour, and they will split that with the local program manager. So if a program gets created, then Jewel and Rocktricity would get payment, and that would help us then pay our expenses to run our business, which would be helpful. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay. Well then, shall we wrap the evening up? I think we're all set. If there are no other questions, please do feel free to reach out to us anytime. We check this email every day, multiple times a day. So info@rochestercommunitypower.com, or give us a call at 244-0244. We are happy to answer your questions and look forward to working with you in the future. Have a wonderful evening.
And I
Thank
will
you.
say that this is recorded. So if somebody misses it, if you want to tell your friends or neighbors, you want to go back and watch it, you can find it at Rochester Community Power on Facebook.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get a link up on the website as well. Okay, thanks so much. Have a great day.